Hello everyone, and welcome to my game full of Warships. Today's replay is from Kurfürst, and I'm terribly sorry for mispronouncing it. Now he's in the Kurfürst, at tier 10 German battleship. He's on map Sea of Fortune in a 3-point domination game. It's, well, obviously a tier 10 battle, but there are some pure tier 8s in there. There is a sub, because this was, like, this replay is from the last patch. There's no carrier though, and only one destroyer. Now he is divisioned with a Halland and a Schlieffen. And together with his Schlieffen he is making, well, a somewhat aggressive move here on this side. Ooh, and he's got some lovely citadels into that Salem. Meanwhile the Halland is taking C. Considering that there are barely any destroyers, he's taking that uncontested so far. Now there are quite a few enemies here, so they have decided to not entirely push in and take this a bit more careful. Now their intention is not to really retreat here, but to sit in a position where they are with the rear towards the enemy. So if needed, they can just bail. But if not needed, they'll probably now gently reverse towards the enemy to get those juicy secondaries back into action. Schlieffen secondaries are still going, but our Kurfürst here is just a few meters too far away. Well, okay, that Vanguard is drifting into secondary range. And, ooh, nice citadels there. Meanwhile, it looks like the enemy is taking the B cap, and A is still up for grabs. Now, there are quite a few allies here as well. It's not like the enemies outnumber the friendlies that much. Actually, it's about even here, I'd say, on this flank. If the thing is, despite it being rather even, there are a lot of ships, and if you're facing too many enemies, you have to be careful. If you're too aggressive and everyone just focuses you, you can get wrecked pretty easily. So they are still playing this somewhat careful, and they are using the secondaries to great effect. Yeah, and now the enemy, the enemy has been somewhat decimated. They still have quite a few ships there, but, you know, that Kano is slow, the Vanguard is slow. Now is a good time to turn the ship around and push in. So, Salem. I mean, it's angled, but it's a Salem, so. That's in the hands of RNG now. RNG says, yeah. I mean, he just got overpens. So the Vanguard is desperately trying to hide behind this island, which will buy him a little bit of time, but, you know, this Vanguard's... The Conqueror is probably looking for the next map about now, and maybe they can get the Salem. Salem should be far enough away to just disappear into concealment if he wants. Now, meanwhile, the other side isn't faring so well. The other side seems like is getting wrecked, but it's okay, the friendlies have won this flank. So now they can use their forces and... Well, I mean, they still have to clean up that Vanguard. The Salem is in concealment. There's probably no point in chasing the Conqueror, but once they cleaned up that Vanguard, they can move towards B. Now, this Vanguard finds itself once again at the mercy of a lot of secondaries. Well, and some primary guns as well, I suppose. But that's... I mean, the teams are equal. But it's definitely a good start for our division here, who have basically cleaned up this flank. I mean, they had some help. They were the tip of the spear and did a fair amount of damage. So some shots out against the Conqueror. I have no expectations for this salvo. Right now just comes the... Yeah. It looks like he hit left and right of the ship, but not the ship itself. Now, I assume we won't see the Salem again anytime soon. I mean, at this point you could just... I don't think I would even try to shoot the Conqueror, considering that he's sailing away there anyway. And at the long range duel like this, the Conqueror is favored. As long as you aren't detected, you know, can't just move elsewhere here. Speaking of moving, let's speed up this movement here because, as we've established, there really isn't anything to do here. The enemy is also probably moving towards B, and now we are moving towards our next showdown. Okay, so there is a sub. Sub warfare is ready. So let's see if those planes can get a decent hit there or not. Meanwhile, the Salem's actually spotted by the Holland. And he's getting some, well, yeah, he's getting a few hits there into the sun. Also broadside Montana coming up. Speaking of that sub is barely alive at this point. Let's hope somebody has something to finish it off. Now he could also be shooting the Salem here. His division mate is working on that. Of course, you know, German guns at this range. It's anybody's guess what will happen. Although it looks like the Salem's in Schlieffen secondary range. That might work. Oh. Okay, so his gun's delivered. Meanwhile, anti-sub planes against the sub. Good work. And we have the Montana. Getting closer there. So the sub planes did not deliver. Schlieffen is trying as well. If they can get rid of this sub, it would be very beneficial because... oh yeah, he got rid of the sub. Having a sub towards your flank this close is would have been a problem. Now we are reaching once again secondary ranges. And wait. Somebody here is not happy in chat. I'm not entirely sure why. So currently the enemy has 2 camps, which is not ideal. We are about equal on ships. And it looks like we are sailing into a massive brawl again. So Hydro is running. I mean, you aren't gonna get told by Ragnar, but the Hindenburg is getting closer. So, friendly Schlieffen unfortunately is taking quite a bit of a beating here. Looks like the enemies are focusing the Schlieffen. But there is still some fight left in it, and with the combined secondaries I think they might be able to get the Ragnar. Driving the enemy off their own, the destroyer, is gonna be pretty neat. Especially since it's also a radar destroyer, so that makes the Holland's life a lot easier. Now next up we have the Montana. Unfortunately angled. So the Hindenburg is getting closer and closer. Oh, okay. Maybe that problem has solved itself. So he was very careful, I think, to not go past the island and get Hindenburg top. But the team has dealt with this issue. Which means he can forward again. Now if they let somebody take B, that would be very lovely, because points-wise it's not gonna get any better. So the Conqueror rears its head again. I mean, the Conqueror... He should have been a bit more involved in the fight in the beginning, and then he did retreat when he was outnumbered, that was good, but he might have taken the retreat a little bit too seriously. Especially now if the Conqueror would push in and use the fact that he has a crossfire, right? Crossfires are dangerous, but if you are too far away, then your crossfire is at the mercy of RNG way too much. Now the Montana and the Marlborough are also trying to create a slight crossfire, which is gonna be a little bit more effective than the Conqueror from the Zone War. The Aegir is also taking a peek. So our Kurfürst, he has the island on the left. He's trying to not go further too much because he has realized that the Marlboro and the Montana are gonna be an issue. And he is looking for good targets that he can shoot. And I think the friendly Ronin chat is still going mad for whatever reason. Like, I think he got sunk by the Montana, and he's trying to convince everyone that the enemy Montana is cheating. I have no idea what he thinks the enemy Montana did, other than hit him with shells, which, I mean, clearly using your guns to sink a ship, it's cheating, right? Now, it looks like the enemy Montana, though, is somewhat broadside.
Gegnerische Schlachtschiff zerstört.
Now, the Montana was going here after the Lion, but in the process, he wasn't really angled against Kurfürst. And oh, look at that, the Conqueror actually got a decent hit in. There's still fully healthy Conqueror that hasn't moved from his zone wall. You know, he had all this time now during this fighting to actually push in there and become a really big problem, create a nice crossfire and utterly wreck the friendlies here. But the Conqueror decided not to do any of that and instead remain useless. Good for the friendlies. Now the Aegir is pushing in. Hydro is going. I mean, Aegir has torpedoes, so that might happen. The Marlboro, which I said was creating a crossfire early on, has also sort of missed the point because it just sailed out of the fight instead of, you know, turning around and pushing in there or something. Aegir could have possibly also been a slightly more aggressive while this whole thing happened. But hey, it's all good for the friendlies, because this is still a somewhat close game. The enemies do have more points, but the friendlies are flipping B. So the Aegir has been dealt with. But our... Oh, Marlboro is almost dealt with too. Which is good, because Kurfürst is out of, well, most things. There is damage gone on cooldown, the heal... Well, there is no more heal. I mean, at this point, he could just stay in concealment, cap A and call it a day. Or he can just shoot the Conqueror a little bit to get more damage in. Of course, the Conqueror is now going to burn him to a crisp. But it doesn't matter, right? Basically, the friendlies got this at this point. They are now... Well, I mean, if he thinks the Holland's gonna take the Aetam, they have points lead right now. And this Conqueror is never gonna try anything. If the match has told us anything, that this Conqueror will not try to win, no matter what happens. Well, that last salvo looked somewhat promising, but it didn't do much. Anyway, let's just go to the results. So, unsurprisingly, the enemy Conqueror survived, because till the very end he decided not to pick a fight and just keep running. Meanwhile, our Kurfürst here ended up first, with 2162 base experience, and that was nicely done. Followed by his Schlieffen, and honestly they pushed very well together. And not forget the Holland, who went for objectives and some spotting, which unfortunately isn't that rewarded on the scoreboard. Hot Sauce managed to score over 300,000 points of damage, got a bunch of achievements, and overall a very pleasant game to watch. So, yeah, even in days of the Schlieffen, the Kurfürst is still a threat and still a fun ship to play. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this, and I'll see you next time.